Hello, Jimmy. Welcome to UFO Beyond Reasonable Doubt.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. So I've been seeing, of course, your work. You're very, what's it called in English? You're very tenacious. You do a lot of things on different accounts like YouTube and Instagram. UAP Files. Are you alone, or do you have a partner in that? Or
no, I'm. I mean, I have lots of friends, and I collaborate with lots of people. But in terms of the sort of production of videos and cross-posting across all of the accounts, it is just me. Yeah, it's just me working, doing lots of hours, but I love it. I really enjoy it. So I think that's one of those things that as long as you enjoy something, it's much easier to spend the hours doing than you know.
And it's quite an interesting topic. I don't know if there is a more interesting topic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't get much more interesting than this, does it? This is one of the great mysteries of our lifetime. You know, are we alone out there? Is there life after death? Is there some connection of consciousness? All of these questions that seem to somehow connect to the UFO UAP subject. So it's a great one to get addicted to.
Yeah, I started as an atheist before I got into UFOs, so I'm not anymore, and that's the most common path I think many people start out as. Have you seen the free study? The way people change their minds, contactees and experiencers, how they quite clear how they change their attitude towards the spiritual things, and it's quite clear.
Yeah, is that a study that's been out? I've not heard of that.
Yeah, it's called a free study, but the name is actually Beyond UFOs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the biggest study of experiencers there is.
I should be aware of that, really, shouldn't I? But no, I wasn't. I'll have to check that out.
It's like 800 pages, and it's like 3,000 or 4,000 experiencers. The Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fantastic.
It's really good. I'm going through it in my podcast for myself and for the audience, and I've only done 2 parts so far, but it's you can say a lot of things. One conclusion is that there's more healing cases than abductions.
It's interesting that you mentioned the sort of scary side of it. I did an interview yesterday. In the sort of my little studio with a gentleman called Professor Michael Bollender, who's a German. He's now in the UK professor. Yeah, he's sort of not that well known in the scene, but I think by you nodding, I'm guessing you know who he is. But yeah, for those listening, he was a judge. Very very credible guy, very distinguished career. And is now teaching law at university. So he's a professor of law at Durham University. And I've known him for quite a while, and I've interviewed him before. He's in a documentary that I'm making, actually. I've travelled down to film him. But he was saying yesterday, that on the subject of abductions, he's like, in British law and in international law, really, there's this big thing which is sort of consent. It's a big part of our law, and international law is consent. So you can consent to some type of relationship, or consent to maybe physical violence, when people are boxing or doing UFC fighting. There's that big thing of consent. And when you look at abduction cases, that's the one thing that appears to be missing. I know a lot of abductees talk about having a positive response later on after the abduction. So generally, like, the abduction when it's happening is very scary and not a great experience, not a positive experience at the time, but a lot of people afterwards will say, but something positive has come from it. So when they look back at it, they look at it as a positive thing that has happened. But then the big question is, well, why don't they ask for consent? Why don't they? And if you speculate that, well, maybe they don't communicate in the same way, well, hang on, they've shown that they're able to communicate, but they choose not to ask consent. And that was a really interesting, made me think about abduction cases, and why don't they? They've got the ability to, but choose not to.
Yeah, the deeper answer to that question you can find in Mike Clelland's books. Have you read Mike Clelland's?
No. What does he say?
Well, the first 2 messengers, they are quite Well, I can really recommend those books because that's the kind of contacts and experiences I've experienced. That kind. He has thousands of people that have experienced the kind of things I have. I'm not an abductee, but in the third book, he goes a little deeper about himself and his own contacts. And so, basically the answer from that type, I mean, Mike Cleland, he's really deep into contacts. Few people know, I don't think anybody knows, no earthling knows more about contacts with grace than Mike Cleland, I'd say. And so the answer to that question on the meta level from him, it's quite clear that he has agreed to this.
Right.
Yeah, before being born.
Okay.
Between us, yeah. And that seems to come, it's not only him, I've heard that from other people as well. And so that's the deepest answer I can give you. But read Mike Cleland's books, and especially the third one. I think a newbie on UFO should not read the third book at once. It's too deep. This is so. Right, we're already a couple of minutes in, and we're like the deepest questions about ufology. I like it. Yeah.
Well, there's the stuff that is really difficult to talk about, isn't it? I mean, for me, I curate various social media platforms, and I look at subjects to cover within the UFO UAP space, and it's one of the most difficult to cover because there's such a varied opinion on that aspect of it, but it's also the much deeper and darker side to the subject, because I think when people are talking about objects in the sky, it's easy to first understand that because, okay, well, there's a civilization that's further away. They're maybe 100 years ahead of us, maybe 1,000,000 years ahead of us. We could probably create technology like that in 100 years or 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years. So it's easy to get your head around. They've come from far away, and maybe they've got some sort of stealth, technology that we haven't quite got yet, but we're getting there with the B-2 bomber and stuff like that. But then when you move into, okay, well, there's a psychological connection, there's a psychic connection, there's abductions, and that's kind of really scary territory for some people, especially for new people coming into the subject. And I see part of my job as to try and engage people in the subject.
Who are you aiming for?
That's what I'm aiming for. Yeah,
the newcomers.
Yeah. I think because I am relatively new to the subject, I've only been in it maybe 3 or 4 years, actually sort of researching and presenting that research and interviewing people. So I'm bringing people along with me. So a lot of people are at the same kind of stage that I'm at, which is there's so much going on. Let's try and soak it all up and present it in a way that people understand.
I think that's great. I think you're doing the right thing. The biggest part of the population is the general public who are just getting to know the subject, right? And you can't please every group because, in the beginning, you don't know as much. My thing is that I think I can persuade the skeptics because I am a skeptic. I've always been a skeptic, and that's who I am. So I know what arguments works on skeptics. Yeah. So, but the difficult thing is that the further along and the more deeper knowledge I get, I want to share this also, right? But if I share too much about my Cleland's things, right, I'm going to scare off myself. I would scare myself 5 years earlier. It's almost an impossible balance, I think.
Yeah, it is very difficult. And I've had this conversation with my friend Tom Vernon, who's got the YouTube channel Tom Vernon UAP. And I was saying to him before, because I'm documenting my own journey and sharing what I find and the interesting people that I've found along the way, I'm getting towards now the consciousness side of it, and then that goes into also the abduction side of it and the sort of physical experiences. And that's a really difficult thing for me to decide how far I go into it or how deep I go into it and how much of that I show and not put people off. And I was saying, is it time now to just do that? Because if I hold that back, then I'm not being honest with myself, because that's where I'm going now. And so, I kind of have to document my own journey, which is that stuff's interesting. I've put it off now for quite a long time, just focusing on physical stuff in the sky and people's experiences of the physical stuff and what they've seen and how they move and how they operate and the nuts and bolts. But it's like maybe it's time to start jumping into that at least dipping our toe in the pond.
Yeah, you can always go back, right? You can report on what other people, credible witnesses say about.
Yeah.
I mean, abduction is very logic, but it's a very difficult balance, right? Hybrid programs, walking among us, that stuff. It took me years, a couple of 1,000 hours before I could take that seriously, to be honest.
But it's been talked about in Congress. It's been talked about in the national news in America, especially. You know, I didn't expect to hear them talking about UFOs to start with in a serious way, but to now say, you know, hybrid programs and I mean, I think that's going to be the whole sort of storyline for this Disclosure Day with Steven Spielberg. Is this hybridization and
is it?
I think so. Yeah, from looking at the. I mean, I've not got any extra insight than anybody else from watching the trailers, but I think based on the trailers, it looks like it's disclosure of hybrids living among us. And a percentage of the population being hybrids, based only on the trailers and the sneak peeks that he's put out.
That sounds very logical, because I was quite skeptic when I saw the trailer, but I didn't look at it as thoroughly as you might have had, or I'm missing something. I thought it looked to me like too much science fiction, like it wasn't really connected to real ufology. That's my impression. I got at first, and that wouldn't fit, because I mean, a Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that is very ufology correct. All of the parts, except there's like a Hollywood twist, of course, to them, but it's very, all of the pieces are from reality, I'd say. And I think that E.T. in 1982, that's Roswell, I think. It's only one thing, the concept of the survivor, right? Everything else is nothing. It's not about Roswell, but the concept of Roswell is the survivor. That's the most important thing about Roswell, actually, I'd say. So I think that's a version. I would bet a little bit of money that is a Hollywood Steven Spielberg version of the concept of Roswell, the survivor. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. Yeah. You've got a saucer disc coming through the clouds, which matches quite a bit to Close Encounters shape-wise from what we can see in the trailer. You've got a scene where a young girl is on like a surgical table of some kind, and there's a 3-finger hand, so a tridactyl, which would kind of match with the Nazca mummies and stuff that we've heard so much about over the last couple of years. So there's definitely a 3-fingered green hands, kind of grey-green type hand. So we know that that's somehow involved in it. But then the only sort of slight twist to that UFO lore that we've already got around, you know, tridactyl mummies that are in the press and in the media and stuff over the last few years, and obviously the saucers that have been around since forever in lore, is this idea of hybridization, I think, is the only extra twist. So my guess is, and it's a complete guess based on just seeing those images, that it's going to be a story of they've seeded some kind of a human hybrid alien, I guess, for some purpose or other. Whatever that is, I don't know what the angle is on that. But that the original aliens, I guess, are the 3-fingered greys, maybe. That would be my guess. I'm hoping so, because my take on it was, I hope it was wrong, that it's not as ufologically correct as Close Encounters, but if it's like you say, then it would be, because the hybrid program, I mean, it took me a couple of years, but I mean, take a listen to Dr. David Jacobs' work. It's he's a professional. He knows what he's doing, and I mean, there's no question about it. I also heard, what's his name, say that there's a deep CIA program or knowledge about the hybrid program, of course. And there's just too much credible information. And it's very logical, a hybridization. And according to Jacobs, at least one of the purposes of the hybrids seems to be this phase of us, disclosure phase, right, to help us along or something like that. Interesting times. Yeah. I mean, I'm slightly more interested now that that Steven Spielberg has said, in his opinion, he thinks it's likely to be the truth. I think I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but I think he says, have you seen the clip from him at the press conference?
I saw one, but I think there's more clips that I haven't seen.
So there was two little parts to it. One was that he was talking about Close Encounters and saying at the time of making that, he was thinking, wouldn't it be great if one day we found out that this... No, wouldn't it be great if we found out one day that this was true or something? Wouldn't that be a great story for this to come true? And then he said, with Disclosure Day, he's saying, won't it be great when people see this film and realise that it is all true?
Yeah.
And
He knows.
And that's a hell of a change in phrasing from wouldn't it be nice to, or this is. And I'm thinking, okay, but it would make sense. I mean, celebrities and powerful people, of which he is both, people gravitate towards those people because they want to hang out with a celebrity, they want to hang out with a super rich person or a powerful and influential person. So those people have got to offer something. What are they offering? Maybe a bit of information, maybe it's a bit of a wink and a nudge in the right direction.
I think it's CIA. There was a lady, she's passed on now, but she was a doctor from Finland, and she was like a head of the northern part of Finland's hospitals. She was quite high up in ranking. She had her own experiences and contacts, and she had both alien contacts and contacts internationally in military. And she was highly connected. So, and she said from her contacts that CIA and the cover-up, they have worked like two paths at once. One is straight up debunking, and one is fictionalizing and making movies like that. So Steven Spielberg, I've gone back and forth if he's just a useful idiot or if he's well informed. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all of the parts there are versions of it in reality. And that hand scanner that shows up, that hand scanner that Bob Lazar says is in S4. I mean, that's a golden nugget there. That's S4. That's the deepest of the deepest. Now I'm looking forward to seeing that movie, actually.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it turns out. I think the film is probably made for people that are not necessarily in the UFO research community, but I think it's got a lot that the people that are in the UFO research community are going to really find interesting, and they'll be able to pick apart and attach it to different things. So I think it'd be great to see, and I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. But also because it would engage so many new people into the subject, which is wonderful because that's what we need. We need people to get involved in the science around it, the citizen journalism, citizen science.
And that would be easy.
Yeah.
That would be easy. Just the media.
Yeah. Yeah, because we spend so much time relying on the government to go, hopefully the government are going to give us what we want and they're going to tell us and they're going to wheel out a ship or a craft onto the White House lawn. Like, they're probably not going to do that. I mean, we can always hope, but they're probably not going to. So let's do it ourselves.
And then that's the one thing I want to talk to you about is the media coverage in... Where do you live? Let's start there. I want to talk about you also. I want to know where you live and what year you're born.
Well, I'm in Lincolnshire in England.
Where's
which
that?
Is it's kind of like Midlands, the middle of England. Very farm community, lots of green. But I'm originally from the south of England, so I'm from London originally. And so I'm a city boy. I'm an East Ender, southeast of London. But I've always wanted to get out of the city. I've spent a long time there, and I was ready, especially when I had a family, to move to the quieter parts of the world, well, of the UK at least. And so I'm pretty happy here. Yeah, it's nice. So I'm 43, born in 83. Father of three. Okay. 3 humans and 3 dogs. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Spend my time making videos and talking to people. Yeah, they're nice.
What's your background professionally?
Yeah, so electrical engineering. I specialise in electric vehicle installations, renewable solar, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my area of expertise, what my qualifications are in. But yeah, the majority of my time is just, social media, podcasting, making
aliens.
Basically making a documentary, with working on an app.
Yeah.
Which is, again, like we were talking about before, around collecting the data and doing it as a citizen scientist, essentially. I wanted to create, with my friends, we had this sort of shared idea of having some kind of database that just has everything that you could ever need to research. And now that we've got this amazing tool that is AI, but it's kind of tainted by things like Wikipedia and all of these different sources that it will try and take information from. And they're very much controlled by skeptics and debunkers.
Yeah.
So to have a standalone database that AI could work within, and only from that pool of data, with scientific papers, patents for technology, UFO sightings. So it's called Vector Point. Vector Point from the App Store, and the website is UAP Files Live. But it's already got 1.4 million sightings.
Okay. Vector Point.
Vector Point, yeah. VECTORPOINT, Vector Point.
Okay.
That takes up time as well. My good friend Nathan Cole, he's like the co-founder of that project, and he's the sort of brains behind the technical side of it. So I'm excited about that. But, again, that's what we were saying before, trying to bring people into it.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the ability to search the data, rather than just what we're doing at the moment, which is data's everywhere and it's just scattered and siloed, and feel like we need it all in one place, which is what
there's like a couple of old big archives, right? So and we have the biggest one, maybe the biggest one in Sweden here, AFU, but it's when you get large enough, the intelligence community is going to come knocking on your door.
Well, I mean, it's all open to the public, so if they want to have a look, they can do. But I think if we get to a position where we don't need them and they need us more than we need them, then we're doing well. Good position to be in, rather than the other way around, because we haven't got classification and NDAs, and we're just, here's the data, come and check it out.
I'm going to ask you what tool. I have to ask you, which Tool album got you hooked on the sauce?
That's a good question. Well, so Tool is my favourite band. They have been since, I would say, maybe I was 19 or 20, maybe 18. So I remember I was stacking shelves in a supermarket called Asda. So one of my first jobs, one of my earlier jobs, I worked a night shift and I would stack shelves, and I had, I think I remember it was like baked food, so I would have some jars, but some flour and all that sort of stuff. That was my aisle that I looked after. But because it was a night shift, we were allowed to listen to music. And I had a mini disc back then, like a mini disc player. Yeah. And I made friends with a guy called John, real nice guy, and he worked there as well. And so he was into like a lot more rock music, and I was a bit more indie at the time, maybe a little bit of rock every now and again, maybe a bit of an eclectic taste, let's say that. But he said to me one day, you've got to check out this band Tool if you haven't already. And I'd never heard of them. And he gave me this mini disc, and we would do that. We would sort of swap mini discs and listen. Yeah. And it was Tool, and I think it was Anema. I always pronounce it correctly. Is it Anema or Anemia? Anema?
Anema or Anema. Depends. The album or the song is different.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Anyway, that album. And so I listened to it, and it was just so unique. Maynard voice. I mean, I'm big into vocals, and his voice and the music and the slow build up. It was just incredible, and I've never experienced anything quite like that, like the effort that goes into one song.
listen?
From the first listen.
Okay.
From the first listen. I think what caught me at first was Maynard's voice and his vocals, and how he had such amazing range, and how he could just be this, you know, proper, almost like a thrash metal rock, and then he could be like a progressive art rock, and then it was almost like a folky kind of singer, and everything all in one song. Yeah. And it was just, but on top of that, at the time I was really into Bill Hicks and Sacred Cow, and like a group of comedians, huge Bill Hicks fan, and they sampled Bill Hicks's voice, didn't they? In what was the song? Was it H or
Third Eye? I think.
Third Eye, yeah, Third Eye, I think, yeah. And when I heard that right at the start of them sampling his voice, and then what he was saying, I was like, this is incredible. Like, they're into Bill Hicks as well.
Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
This is great. So that was it. And then I just, every album that came out, which wasn't very often, you know what they're like.
No.
I listened to, and on the rare occasions that they came to England, I went to their gigs and saw them live at Brixton Academy in London, and it was just fantastic, so great. Yeah, it was at least 10 years after I got into them that I was able to see them live. They didn't come to the UK very often, and it wasn't always cheap because you know, trying to go to one of those gigs back then when I, you know, didn't have much money, and the cost of travelling across the country, and then the cost of tickets and staying overnight somewhere was a lot of money for me back then. Yeah. But yeah,
it's the kind of same, very similar story for me. I was 16 I think I was 17. It was a couple of months or maybe a year after Anima had been released, and I probably saw the Stinkfist video on MTV Headbangers Ball. You remember that?
Yeah.
But I didn't get hooked right away. But then my friend, his big sister's boyfriend, had been to the States and came back with the Anima album, and so he started listening to it, and he got hooked right away, right? So he gave me that album because he knew my taste of music. We had the same taste in music. So he gave me the Anima album and said, listen to this 20 times, and if it's not the best record you ever heard, you get it for free. Yeah, nice. And it was. So that's the most special album for me too.
Awesome. Yeah.
Something else about that. Billy Hicks is... I think I have it there.
Yeah, is that on the CD? Because I only ever bought the CD. Was that on the record?
No, it's in the CD, I think.
Ah.
There he is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, I'm not sure where this is the terrible part. I've moved houses a few times, and all of my original plastic, you know, CDs, like I've still got the discs somewhere, but I put them all into a folder, so I've lost most of the artwork. It's terrible. I had vinyl and stuff back then, and that's gone, and that would just, the thought of having that still now, if I'd have somehow managed to keep it. Yeah. But at the time I didn't realise. I thought, records are no good and CDs are much better for audio, and need to keep all that lot.
But I think they've, a couple of years ago, they've made a new vinyl special edition, super... have you seen Danny's interview at Rick Beato?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, you have to see it. It's great.
So this is the Tool rehearsal space, but this actually started as your place that you lived.
Yeah. Stumbled on this with a buddy of mine who was a photographer, rented a place down the street, and the landlord told him about it. And
so every Tool song has been written in this place?
Every Tool song. The band actually got put together here. I had my drums set up, and actually when Maynard moved in next door...
Like literally next door?
Yeah, upstairs in the loft there. Him and Adam were kind of trying to get something going. I said, I'll rent you space to do it. And every time they rented the space, whoever they asked to drum for them would flake out because they didn't want to move their crap or something. I just go, well, okay, well, I'll jam with you guys,
Wait,
and that's how the band got put together.
Oh my God!
He talks about a new, like a super thick vinyl anima with some.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so you should get it if you have a
Yeah, I
player.
will do. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
It's probably quite expensive, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's the problem these days, isn't it? They do tend to be. Yeah, I love just sitting there watching. I mean, Danny like drum solos when he's just, there's so many clips of him just, and it's just incredible. How rare is that, just to have a band of people that are so unique in their own ways with their own instruments, but somehow come together to make this incredible, weird, unique.
I think the number one. You can compare them to. Beatles sold more records and Rolling Stones sold more records, but that's not. If you're going to decide the greatest rock band in history, it's not about sales.
No.
So, and if you look technically,
So you're playing without a click.
Yeah, I've never tracked a Tool song to a click. So yeah,
I
it's
wonder,
kinda good.
you couldn't. I can't even imagine how you would do that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just. I think a lot of it is because a lot of them are such weird time signatures. It'd be hard to program a click to it or something.
who can claim that there's a better drummer than Danny Carey? There isn't.
No.
So you can compare them to, I guess, Led Zeppelin. But I think they've taken it further than Led Zeppelin has.
Yeah. I would sit and watch John Henry Bonham play it. I'd watch his sort of solos back in many years ago, and there's still a few of them floating about on YouTube. But something about just sitting there watching it, maybe with headphones on, and just watching the pure raw energy and this incredible sound, and Danny's got that as well. And I don't know, I think it works so well with the slow build-ups, just to have that. Someone on drums and that's just able to just slowly bring in the pace, the heartbeat of the song into just bang, this explosion.
Nobody does it like that.
Nobody does it.
Right.
I've had this discussion. It comes across and it's hard to try and prevent myself coming across like a sort of connoisseur of music, like a bit of a snob. Yeah. And I try not to.
I know.
But then people are like, have you heard this song from this band that's, some song that's out on the radio, and you think, there's no effort that's gone into it. It's catchy, but it's not technically beautiful.
No.
Something that would have taken them maybe like 2 years working on this song. You can feel it. Yeah. And then somebody's got, you've got a catchy riff with 3 chords. Brilliant. That's great. Yeah. But is it going to stand the test of time?
I didn't really think it would be something commercial, but we all loved it and we believed in it. And that's, lo and behold, that's what really translated when we did play our first gig. It kicked people's asses, and then we only played 6 gigs, I think, and then we got signed. Because every gig we played, every person would just come back and bring all their friends to the next one. And we were, by 4 or 5 gigs, we were packing out.
I don't follow along anymore. When there's a good artist that comes around these days, I hear about the name and I hear the music and it kind of goes away. And then it takes like 5 years and then I go back, what's that song? This is talented. So I go back and oh wow, this is actually good music. Yeah. But because so much of today's music, it sounds like AI, basically, AI music. It's no real connection to the source, right? Mm. But there's a few now and then. But A Perfect Circle is coming to Stockholm in a couple of weeks. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
They're on tour. I'm probably going to come to England too, I guess. I think, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll definitely try and see If they do come over, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that Maynard's involved in, I'm stuck in. I mean, was it Pussifer? His sort of solo thing that he did, well, not solo, but side project that he did. I mean, even as much as it's probably a bit of a fanboy move, but his wine company, like they were producing T-shirts at one point, and I bought a T-shirt, and this is a good few years ago, and I was so annoyed. Like I gave it to my ex-girlfriend at the time. This was, as I say, quite a few years back. And when we separated, I didn't think to ask for it back. So now she's got the, it's like, and she doesn't care. It doesn't mean anything to her at all. It's just some T-shirt. But for me, it's like, that meant something.
Yeah. Bad mistake.
Yeah, big mistake.
Meant more to you than to her. Yeah.
100% more. Yeah. But no, A Perfect Circle were a lot of fun from as I was growing. It was that sort of, it was Tool, but a bit more light-hearted, a bit more kind of easygoing Tool, you know, where you could just listen to it in the background.
The first album is great. That's a really good album, Mere de Noms. And Billy Howardale, the guitar player, he is really gifted.
Yeah, he is. He plays guitar beautifully.
Yeah, he's Tool's guitar technician. So,
is he?
Yeah, I think Maynard and also the other guys also thought he's too good to just be our technician because he's so talented. So I think that's what made them do A Perfect Circle. And Maynard was bored because the other took so long to write new songs, right?
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I'm sure one of their, I forget the guy's name now, one of the original members was just, I think he...
Paul D'Amour, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Paul, yeah. And he'd said publicly, like, they were just, I can't wait that long to make a song, you know, so he sort of moved on.
He's kind of the, he was more punk rock, right? He didn't believe in it, in their method, right? So because he was more, he didn't like big stages and record labels. That wasn't his thing, I think. Yeah. But it was a good thing that they brought the Englishman in on the bass.
Yeah.
He's gifted.
Yeah, they all are. They're all just, they all just work. You know, they all work in perfect harmony. And I mean, I don't know if that's the same for, you know, personality-wise from what we hear, that they sort of clash from time to time and they get frustrated with each other.
Yeah, but you should listen to that interview. Dan is telling about how they almost break up when they, because Danny always wants his cool fills to be heard right. Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, any band that have been together for that long and that take that long to make a single song, and not to mention an entire album, I can imagine there's some frustration and some riffs and some arguments, and you know, that's human nature, isn't it?
And it's already been 7 years since the last one. It feels like it was yesterday, but it's time for a new album. I actually heard them talking about, them talking about a new record. That usually means there's like 5 years more. So I don't know. I would just given up about new records.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating anything new, and then if something does come, then that's a bonus, isn't it? You know,
exactly.
There's plenty to enjoy from the past, I think, and I've always got a song to go back to for a different mood. You know. Yeah,
exactly. And I like the way they've changed. They haven't stood still. They do not sound like they did in '92, not at all. But they've always surprised me. Every time, and I don't think they can surprise me coming out with a new album, and they always do.
Did you know about the when I was? You probably don't know this. Let me tell you very briefly this story about Maynard and my connection with him. Not that there is one, but my attempt at a connection. So for a period of time, I'd seen somebody that did this. Every day I post a video with there's a guy called Average Wood Design. Anyway, I forget it. It's terrible that I've forgotten it, but my brain's gone to fuzz. But anyway, he's like does woodwork UFOs, and he every day will make like a new UFO and shows the process on Instagram. And he wanted one to go off to space with like a rocket to space, basically. So it was like, you know, day 55 of making a rocket until they send it up to space. And the idea jumped into my head, like, what if I just every day put a UFO video out, because people send me thousands of videos with some Tool music. So every day it's like a UFO video matched to Tool music.
Oh yeah.
Until Maynard James Keenan agrees to come on the podcast.
Yeah.
So that was the idea.
Go for it.
No, well, here's the thing. Here's the problem. I did do it. I did it for maybe a month, every day for a month, maybe a little bit longer. And I tagged Maynard's Instagram account at the time. And after about a month of doing it, he blocked me.
No.
on Instagram. I was heartbroken, because I'm like, he's my role model, my, I don't know what you'd call it, but my idol, I guess. And I guess it was just annoying, maybe, or something, or not into UFOs. I mean, I don't know.
If you look at from his view, he gets 10,000 crazy people, and from his view, everyone looks like a crazy fan, I guess.
Definitely, I could see that, and it would probably be annoying if somebody tagged me every single day in some video that I wasn't really interested in. I'd be like, okay, mute or ignore.
Maybe he just didn't want it in his.
I mean, even the understanding of that, I was still pretty heartbroken at the time. I'm not going to lie.
No,
I was just
I get it.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe one day he might have some interest in UFOs.
I'm pretty convinced that he has had contacts.
You think?
I would be surprised if he hadn't. I mean, all those little nuggets, all those little Easter eggs about aliens and Area 51, and
he definitely had an interest in it back in the day. He definitely had a massive interest in the consciousness side and that connection. And there's definitely alien-related things in there. But so you think that he's probably had an experience? You think?
Oh, I'd bet money on it. I would. Yeah, it's too much.
That's why we need him on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
To ask him.
Because there's too much. I mean, have you seen him wink like this on concerts? And I mean, if you do contact work, if you like they do all of them, at least I know Danny and Danny and Adam, and probably Maynard too. They've gone deep down the rabbit holes in the sake of art, right there.
Yeah,
they're really pretentious and serious about connecting to the source and doing esoterical stuff and rituals and stuff. And if you do that, that correlates very much with, that's like contact work. So,
good
so
point.
I'd guess at least Maynard, because he's the one who decides those Easter eggs. And I've heard him mention, I think I heard him talk about it. He actually talked about something about UFOs. I forget it now, but I'm convinced he has had some kind of contact.
I mean, he's definitely. I mean, even looking at the lyrics, they're all consciousness, merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, and do you know what I mean? So he's very much in the vibrations and resonance and consciousness side of it. And you're right. It probably that's very much a reoccurring theme and a connection to contact.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. It would make sense. I wouldn't put it past him. Equally, he's not shy to say what he thinks and to be open about his experiences. So you would have thought he would have been more. He would have vocalized it more obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he. I don't know why he hasn't done that in that case. But I mean, the most obvious one is that he really loved that. The story behind Rosetta Stoned. The song Rosetta Stoned? No. So that's a guy. I don't know whose friend it was. I think it was Danny's friend, or he was some friend of a friend, or somebody they knew. He took some mushrooms and acid and stuff. He went on a trip, and so if you read the lyrics, those lyrics are like a trip report. After he. I think he went out to a mountain and took some acid or mushrooms and stuff, and basically wanted to connect with ET or UFOs. So he's really tripping balls writing that. It's not a lyrics. It's just a trip report. And then Maynard took a look at it and found it very interesting to make so he basically didn't change that much. He just made it into a song, to the lyrics to a song, and that's very you can hear between the lines. It's kind of crazy talk, but it's also very much the feeling of a contactee. I'd say that that feeling of you're gonna save the world. It's like you have found the answer to everything, and now you're gonna tell all the world about it. And then the next meaning is like he forgot his pen and he shut the bed again or something like that. So like that. People who are in contact get this feeling of it's such a big epic experience, and then normal life hits you right afterwards.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
oh, I didn't know that.
They played it live on the last tour for the first time since a long time ago. They played Rosetta Stone, and that crescendo is totally epic and very ufological, I'd say.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out again.
Yeah, you should.
Love them. Yeah. They're just the best. They really are.
They're the best.
Yeah.
I have a long story, but I have synchronicities with Tool and UFOs. But it's a long story, though. The first sync with Tool was in 2006. And I started working as a police officer in 2005 after the police academy. And but I mean, I had my old friends, right? So we had been out drinking, as we did back then, and I slept on my friend's couch, and he's the one who introduced Tool to me. Right. And we knew from another friend what hotel they were going to stay at before they played in Gothenburg the day after. So we knew that they probably going to show up the day before. And so first we agreed that we were going to sit in the hotel lobby just to wait to see them. But then we were like hungover. So we were driving past, and I say, no, we have to give it a chance at least. So, okay. So he stopped the car. I went in. He waited for me. He didn't think it was any use. So I go into the hotel lobby, take a look around in the bar and the entrance there, and I'm going out. I'm in there for less than 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute. And as I was going out, 2 dudes are coming in. And it's Danny and Justin. They have just been to the World Cup in Germany. And they came straight from there. And since they are coming in, and I just like, I'm so happy to see them, right? So they probably think I'm like some kind of welcoming team or something. But I think they probably understood quite fast that I was just a fan. But they were so nice, and so I talked to them for a couple of minutes. We talked about the World Cup in football, and and they gave me the autographs. It's Justin and Danny.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the first sync. The second sync is that I did a lot of contact work in 2022. I didn't get into ufology until David Fravor at Joe Rogan. That was October 2019. I hadn't taken UFOs seriously 1 second in my life before that. But then I was on sick leave because treating cancer. And I read a lot of philosophy and stuff. And I was a devoted atheist. I was a big Christopher Hitchens fan. Yeah. It was kind of perfect timing that the UFO question showed up then, because, when you're battling cancer, you kind of understand that, it shakes you up. Your old belief systems is not worth anything, really. So I sat down and, this pilot, a fighter pilot, is going to talk about UFOs. And I'm going to listen now. Now I'm going to try to take UFOs seriously. And, that case, if you look at evidence the way we do in criminal law, there's no lack of evidence for UFOs or aliens.
Tons and tons of evidence,
yeah. So that changed everything. And then in 2022, I did a lot of contact work because I heard from people in ufology on like Discord servers and stuff, late nights, Europeans and Americans talking UFOs all night, right? And a lot of them told me stories about CE5 working, really I know that they weren't lying to me, and it's like some of them had amazing contacts. So I did a lot of contact work, and I like to listen to music when I do my meditation. So I had one of the songs was Disposition. Yeah. So I hadn't seen a UFO until, what was it, August 4th, 2022. I had some synchronicities, but I hadn't seen anything clear. I wanted to see something clear, and I wanted to meet Swedish contactees. And I wanted to hug a grey. That was a message I sent out. I wanted to hug a grey. And last night, before I was supposed to go back to Stockholm I'm from the West Coast. I didn't think that I was going to do C5 because I was going back the day after, but then the skies cleared and I felt that, I have to do it. I just did it. So I went out to my spot on a meadow, and there was a bird, a raptor, screaming like crazy, and it was some kind of wind gusts and lots of sound in nature. And then in my corner of my eye comes a little dot, and just as I was thinking, here comes another satellite, I can't end that thought, because exactly when I think that, it swoops around and starts doing little turns and
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like, if you think of a satellite, it was like 5 times bigger. I mean, I don't know how big it was, but compared in the angles and stuff. So, and I knew what it was. So then I thought of asking it to making it shine a light or signaling light entered my mind, because probably I've heard people getting flashes. So, and exactly when I thought that, a big fucking flash like this, like 5 times bigger than the craft for a couple of tenths of a second, I guess. And that had repeated like 6 to 8 times. It blinked exactly when I screamed in my head, blink, blink, and I was ecstatic. I was like, tears. I was like, whoa, hello, hi.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's a crazy experience.
And so afterwards I figured out what bird it was. It was an owl, a female. It's not a barn owl. I'm not sure what it's called in English. But afterwards everything was quiet. There were no wind gusts. There were no sounds at all. It was dead quiet. Very strange. I haven't heard nature being that quiet. Yeah, and the music keeps playing in my ear. I haven't stopped the music, and it's Disposition. And that song is like 5-6 minutes long, right? And this only lasted for a minute, maybe 40 or 80 seconds. I don't know. It's really hard when you're in the moment to tell how long it was. I don't know if it was 40 seconds or 80. Yeah, so Disposition was playing in my ears when I had my contact.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know what? I, as you were talking, I wrote that down. So I'm going to have to try, because I was thinking about listening to Tool while sitting out in my garden on a clear night, and I really want to do it. And I keep thinking about getting out, but
then, what was it, in 2023? I've been thinking since I was 17 about getting a Tool tattoo, but I always put it off because I cannot decide what motive and where to put it. So for 25 years, I've been like on and off about getting a Tool tattoo. And then I introduced Tool to a new friend, and he's super spontaneous. So he just, when he fell in love with Beatles, he tattooed them walking about across Abbey Road, and he has Freddie Mercury on another arm. So he just, okay, now we're going to do a Tool tattoo. Yes. So it's actually in Danny Carey's autograph also. I Googled why they have that, and I found an interview with Adam, and he talks about the 7-headed star. I think he says that it's like a special symbol in sacred geometry, and it's about good luck and fortune or something like that, and that's why all the cops have it.
It's a 7-sided star, which is a symbol of, it's a really positive symbol in sacred geometry. All the cops have it. You see it used over, generations of it coming out, and it always, for the most part, comes out positive, and that's why we picked it.
So when I said that, okay, that's the one. Yeah, can actually share a screen here. So after 25 years of not being able to decide what tool tattoo, so we go to a part of Stockholm, a tattoo parlor. It's at 15, so it's in the afternoon at 15:41, I think. And I took a picture of my new tattoo, my first tattoo, and it looks like this. Yeah, and the next picture in my phone is like 4 hours later. I'm heading back home with my car, and it's the last stop. I'm waiting for a green light. The other cars get green lights, and it's just me and a car in front of me waiting for the green light. Everyone else has left, and I take a look at the license plate in front of me. 4 hours after I do a tool tattoo, which I've been waiting like 25 years of doing, and it's that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is a regular plate. It's not a special plate. So the only way you can spell out tool is with 2 zeros. It's actually 2 zeros.
Right.
But that's the only way you can spell tool on a regular plate with double zeros and an L. I mean, what are the chances?
So it would have been the only one in the world like that.
Yeah.
Certainly the only one in
yeah, it's one in many thousands. I try to figure out how big of a chance that is. But anyway, showing up for a couple of hours after I do the tool tattoo, I mean, come on. And that's sync number 3 with tool. So those things happen when you do contact work. Synchronicities happen. It's, yeah.
Wow. Incredible, man.
Yeah,
Incredible.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it actually doesn't end there. Well, kind of. Those things with tool that I mentioned now, those are quite clear. But I can make a case for a 4th one, but we'll save that for another time.
Okay. Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been considering a tattoo, a tool tattoo since I was probably 18, 19, since I first became obsessed with them.
Yeah.
And I've put it off as well. I've never had a design decision on what particularly I'm after, but it's always been on my mind. But,
yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
Do contact work and tool tattoos.
Yeah.
That's the stuff.
Definitely.
I can highly recommend contact work. And I don't know. I don't think it's I haven't heard anything bad even. I mean, the only bad thing I've heard, one of the stories that inspired me to know that contact work does work, is an American guy who I've talked to him hours online, and he went upstate New York with a friend to do contact work. He didn't tell his fiancée what he was doing. When they reached the cabin up in the woods somewhere, they start fighting about something silly. So the other person leaves. So he's alone there. And he does Stephen Greer's protocol, but he does it inside. And then he wakes up, and both nights he gets some really, really close encounters. There's 3 dots above his car the first night, I think. And the second night, there's an entity in his room. I think this both nights, actually. The second night, he takes his bottle. He feels really heavy. What he sees is not like a alien being. It's a old man, and he doesn't know what old man this is. But he wakes up, and there's this old man, and he knows he has contact. It's definitely not something prosaic. So he takes his water bottle and throw it in the corner just to know that it's real, right? And then he goes home, And when he comes home, his fiancée talks about his grandpa. And he wonders, why are you talking about my grandpa? You already know this. No, not your maternal grandpa, your paternal grandpa. And so he starts asking his dad about his grandpa, and he shows you some pictures and stuff. And that's what the man he was shown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a screen memory, of course.
Wow.
So when I heard that, I knew that, contact works. So that's kind of scary because he didn't... It's kind of intrusive. He wasn't prepared for that kind of contact. He did it inside, so that's the only thing when people talk about if it can be something dangerous. The only answer I have is no. But if you invite them to your home, then it might get too intrusive, more than you really want.
Yeah, that's the difficult part to the contact and I can deal with seeing something in the sky, something that's far away but incredible to see, and something that tells me this is real. I mean, I believe it's real anyway, but something that reinforces that. Yeah. Wow. But something that's in my space, my personal private, that's a step too far, and that's something I really worry about. Because I think a lot of people do. When I hear stories like this, and I go to bed at night, and I have like an iPad next to my bed, and I'll watch a bit of Netflix or whatever to fall asleep to, and that thought of just kind of looking down at the bottom of the bed, thinking if something stood there, I don't know how I'd react. I wouldn't react well. I know I wouldn't react well. I mean, you'll probably know or you almost certainly will know as someone in the police. If you're in that, you're fight or flight, aren't you? I guess, and that's a human nature. Is, are you going to fight? Probably not. Can you fly or run away? Essentially, probably not, because you're kind of cornered in a room and you're in half naked in bed or whatever. So it's the human nature is I run away or I freeze, and you can't really run away. And I don't know. Just the idea of it is very scary because it's a total lack of control of the situation. Complete lack of control and the unknown. Like something else is in control of the situation and I don't know what its intentions are. And I suppose in that moment, I don't know because I've not experienced it. But you kind of imagine that it would be very, very frightening. I
would say that if you do your own... I don't want to use Stephen Greer's protocol. I put together my own... I'm not strict at all. I do stuff that fits me, right? So a little bit of tool, a little bit of breath exercises and stuff. Just something that works for me, right? And you have to get into a mindset. And since you listen to Tool, I know you know what that means, like some very esoteric world that's hard to put words on. Yeah. 100%. And if you get into the right mindset and do it outside and send out good thoughts like peace and love and cooperation, then I have absolutely no reason to think that you would be approached like that or get a scary contact. I'm convinced that you wouldn't risk it. But if you do it inside and use Stephen Greer's protocol, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think that's probably good advice. Yeah, that makes much more sense.
You should do it, and maybe you're gonna lose the skeptics if you talk about it, though.
But that's okay. I'm past that. I had this conversation before about there's enough people out there that are kind of on the fence and that are like doing this sort of down the line, like, well, this is what this person says, but we're completely impartial. Like, there's enough of those people doing that. I'm happy to be in a position where, like, there's definitely something here. What's the root cause of this? What's where it comes from? What its intention is? But it's real. Whatever it is, it's real and it exists and it's there. And I think the sooner you do that, rather than spending so much time with maybe they're prosaic, maybe it's not real, maybe like no, there's too much. Too much has happened. Too much has been seen and experienced.
Yeah, there's a Virginia case on its own.
Well, look, no doubt there is some secret tech out there that's being developed, that's being seen, and probably there are occasions when people see things that they think is that, but it's this. But also, there's stuff that's just, there's no way. No. There's no way that humans can do that.
No. I mean, the Virginia case, that was I was going to say, that the Virginia case, that would hold up in every court in in every part of the world, because the corroborating evidence of that case alone. I mean, I'm not a police officer now, but I've been working as a homicide detective and on a high level actually, and together with the prosecutors and stuff. So there's no doubt that the corroborating evidence of the witness testimonies alone, and on top of that, the biological test, a professional biological test that proves that it's not something completely it's biologically active. So it's biological. So if you put that forward to a jury, it proves extraterrestrials without any doubt. I mean, far beyond reasonable doubt. The man was healthy, 23 years old and healthy, and then he has a contact with a being that has crashed in a spaceship, for Christ's sake. Yeah, and he gets infected, and it's biological active. That case is... Ufology is... I don't know, I know why, but that case alone proves aliens, extraterrestrials. But there's reasons why the media and things are why they are. And have you thought about the stigma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think they did such a good job in the, 40s and 50s, I guess, to try and start this sort of stigma thing of anyone that touches the subject is just, you're crazy, you're mad, you're not smart. And they've built on it over the years, built and built it. So to the point where it's such a toxic subject for scientists and academics to get involved in and really study.
How's it with your partner or friends? How do they approach it?
When I started doing what I do, it was a bit of a, you're doing that, that's a bit of fun, and, a bit of a jokey sort of thing, and not taking it too seriously, like, oh, you're interested in science fiction. That was the thought process. But as time's gone on, and I think it helps having a lot of the American media and the whistleblowers and Congress and stuff like that coming out more recently, that now people are kind of still having a bit of a joke about it, but that's a very British thing. We mock each other, and we joke about each other and take the mick. But behind the scenes, and even not necessarily behind the scenes, sometimes quite openly in front of other people, say, but you know what, I do think there's something, and you know what, I've seen something. Let me tell you the story about what I've seen, and then they'll tell you the story, and you think, so actually most of my friendship group have either seen something or know somebody that's seen something that they couldn't explain in a prosaic way.
Okay.
And even my own dad he would have been very much almost a debunker, I guess. He would have gone that far to the other end. And now he's right next to me. He's, same opinion as me, which is, there's definitely something there. We need to figure out what it is, but it's real. It's real, and it's not human.
Has he seen the moment of contact too?
I don't think he has. No, I don't think he has. I think he's seen Age of Disclosure, the most recent, with the whistleblowers and stuff. But no, I think his introduction to it is the podcast world, my podcast, because he watches my stuff and a few others. But I think even that's enough for him. He knows all, like, the key players, the David Grushes and Lulizondos and stuff.
The David Grush hearing, as I understand it, that wasn't shown on any big. You have like BBC headline news. Is that the biggest TV
I would say,
news?
Yeah, BBC and Sky News.
Have they ever showed anything about UFOs on the biggest news programs like BBC? No.
I mean, we may have had a segment saying the Americans did this today, 1 minute, and then they moved on to the next thing. But we certainly didn't have like the hearing airs. They didn't, very minimal.
That is very under the UFO community really understates or misses that point that the media is the biggest part of the cover-up. If we had media coverage in line with the public interest in the question and serious reporting, everybody would be talking about it.
100%. 100% agree. Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense because it's such a popular subject that if the Americans know this, the American politicians know this, that when they, somebody like Congressman Burleson or Congressman Burchett, Congresswoman Luna, when they post about an issue in their area or their constituency that's not UFO related, it might get maybe a small number of views, but then they start talking about UFOs and the views go through the roof. Like, it's such a popular subject. You would think that a media organisation that makes money from views, from ad revenue, from selling advertising slots, that they would want to have more views. It doesn't make sense, but I think they will catch on. I think they will. It will take a bit more time.
It depends. It's not. They can't decide about those questions, and this is also a big part that the UFO community doesn't want to see, or something. That it's the most highly classified subject in the military, the United States military, and therefore all of the Western world. Most highly classified, and on those topics, the media, the big media, like BBC and the big media. I mean, podcasts is not. We are free to do whatever we want, but the big TV programs are classified. On every other topic that is not highly military classified, they can do whatever they want, more or less. But on this topic, which is, that old document from Canada, the Weeby Smith memo, states that it's the higher classified than the H-bomb. That's why the media can't report. They can't report however they want about Ukraine or defense secrets, or they can't do journalism like they want on the most highly classified subjects. That's why they never report in line with the public interest. And so that's the real gas pedal. So when we see a change in media, if they can report in line with the public interest. I mean, the Grush hearings didn't get 1 second in any country I've asked, not in Sweden, not in England, I think, on the biggest platforms like BBC, TV news programs, on the evening news, right? Because they know that sets the agenda for the whole country. What they talk about on the biggest platforms is set the agenda, and the UFO topic is not allowed there so far. And I haven't found an exception to that rule, really, not a good exception. And I've asked in many countries.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have put it down to that because I didn't consider that. I would have just put it down to us being very conservative about anything that's paranormal or what they consider to be, woo-woo.
Well, the stigma is also a part of it.
Huge. Huge stigma. Yeah. And if they want to be taken seriously, there's certain subjects they will and won't cover. Having said that, I think it was on their website, the news website, where they just covered, there was a hearing today to do with UAPs, but they didn't go much further into it.
No, same in Sweden. They had like an article on the website, like Swedish state television.
Yeah.
Sure, they had a small article on their website about the Grush hearings, and you can't complain that that's not serious. I mean, it's a highly decorated intelligence officer who briefed the White House, and he's under oath in the Congress, testifying under oath about non-human biologics and crashed UFOs. That is as serious as it gets, and the public interest is obvious, but not 1 second in any of the biggest platforms. So, and the UFO community don't want to see the logic here because it's so obvious. It is the most highly rated topic in the U.S. military and therefore the West military. That's why it's not on the biggest platforms. I actually did a segment. I go back and forth to Virginia because it's the best case. So last time I touched on it, I looked at what Wikipedia said, and then I saw like Skeptoid was one of the sources, and the other one was The Guardian. So I took a look at the Guardian article, and it was published like a day before. It's just a couple of weeks old now. Did you know that The Guardian did an article about the Virginia case?
Yes, I think somebody sent it to me.
Straight up debunker style.
Yeah, debunkers.
Yeah.
As is most, I remember that Sean Kirkpatrick. So I interviewed Danny Lavelle, who is a journalist for The Guardian. But much like, what was the one where they did that quite recently, where a reporter had essentially said that everything to do with UFOs was like a hazing thing for the government, the military. Sorry,
Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So, I interviewed Danny Lavelle, who essentially interviewed Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick from Arrow, and that was like his main source. And it was just like a hit piece against ufology and everything's prosaic and they're all balloons and move on. You're all stupid. You're becoming a religious cult kind of thing. Yeah. And I interviewed him because he got a lot of backlash from the UFO community because it wasn't balanced. So I contacted him and said, look, let's have an interview because people are ripping into you at the moment. Let's give you a fair opportunity to answer some of the questions. So he was like, yeah, let's do it. So within about a couple of hours of his article coming out and everyone attacking it, he was on my podcast and we were talking about it. And it's from about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Do you feel he's honest?
Yeah, I think he was being honest, but I think what had happened was he comes from a place, The Guardian, where it's very academic, very old school academia, where you get your sources and you only use sources that you're happy to cite. So that would be, credible sources. And when you look at the UFO community, from the mindset of it's all lunatics and cranks, you're not going to find credible sources in the UFO community if your mindset is there's so much stigma that you're all mad. Yeah. So then the best source that you're going to get is the Pentagon's UFO hunter, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who's going to tell you that it's all nonsense and,
But then you're not even trying being a journalist, really.
Exactly. I mean, he would say, look, I've spoken to lots of people, but there's just no evidence. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's a huge difference between evidence and proof. Like, outright proof for everybody to see and agree with, fair enough. On an individual basis, that might be easier, but for all of society to say, okay, that is proof, we're all on board, that's much harder. But to say there's no evidence, that's ridiculous. Yeah. There's mountains of it.
As a former homicide detective, I give you an advice that the next time you hear somebody complaining that there's no evidence or show me the evidence, ask that person to give a definition of evidence. Yeah. Because nobody can do it. They ask for evidence, but then, okay, give me a definition. You want evidence? If you can't even give a definition of what you're asking for, then you don't know what you're doing. A quick thing about evidence is like something that, how to put it in English? It's going to be, a concrete circumstance. If it's good enough for a court case, for a criminal case, a homicide case, then it's good enough for ufology, right? Yeah. So that's number one. And number two is evidence can be anything, really. Anything that can be used as evidence is allowed as evidence. And so the definition could be in English that a concrete circumstance that in some regard, I guess you can say, points to the hypothesis being true. Yeah. So a concrete circumstance can be a bloody knife with fingerprints, but it can also be a bus ticket. It can be a old statement. Anything that points to the hypothesis being true. Now you know you should look up the English words, but that's the basics of it. And so when any useful idiot comes complaining about there's no evidence, ask them, okay, give me a definition. Yeah. And what they're going to answer like this. They don't realize that they can't give a definition of what they're asking for, so then they're going to give you an example instead. Mm-hmm. You asked for a definition, but they're going to give you an example, and it's always going to be like a bloody knife, or in the case of ufology, it's going to be a piece of physical material that proves aliens, right? Mm. But you asked for a definition, but they give you an example. I promise you that's going to...
Yeah. Well, it has already. It's happened many times already. Yeah. That exact thing many a times. And it's funny because I had the same conversation when Michael was here yesterday, Professor Bollinger. he'd said the same thing. Like at some point you have to say this is evidence and actually make an assessment. He says, as a judge, I've had to put people away for life based on one person's, maybe some corroborating evidence, but one person's witness testimony, and that's enough. And then that puts them in prison, and that then forms proof. That's evidence to beyond all reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. As a judge, and he's he said that with regards to abductions. Because he's gone from being quite sceptical of them to he believes that they are taking place.
Most people they understand, they can see that complaining about there's no evidence, and then you explain you can look at a UFO case like a criminal case in court, and then they understand that witnesses do count as evidence, because they've made everywhere they think that. The question of aliens, it's microscopical maybe on some distant planet, and it's this natural science that's going to prove it to us. And they can't get really outside of that mindset. So when people hear about the Ariel School case, beings talking telepathically to people on different sides of the world, they don't really understand that you can get good reasons to believe in something without it being natural science. So
no, I completely agree. But you'll always find that the problem that even if you're presenting evidence, it then becomes like, oh no, I need a bit more. I often give the Tic Tac Commander David Fravor USS Nimitz case to people because it's a really good case with. With a lot of evidence. You've got multiple people, you've got corroborating evidence, you've got data, you've got sensor, you've got radar, Kevin Day on the radar, and that's incredible. And you've got official records that it happened and it took place. That's like a lot of moving parts that all corroborate each other.
Exactly.
How could you, even as a skeptic, as a person of science, go, no, I'm just looking at the science? How could you not look at that and go, okay, that's a really interesting case. There's something there. How could you just go, nah, probably a balloon, probably, you probably saw a big bird.
Yeah. Did you hear what Eric Weinstein said about the Tic Tac incident?
No,
that's a very good. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson just made a fool out of himself again, and I have so many examples of really high IQ, high educational people like Steven Pinker, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and now Eric Weinstein making complete fool out of themselves as soon as they talk about the UFO subject. Their premises are false, and their logic is really sketchy. Eric Weinstein came up with an explanation that it might have been a hologram. That's his explanation, because he thinks it fit because they don't make a sound, right? So if they don't make a sound, then it has to be a hologram. And he doesn't know anything about how many UFO cases there are, like with physical traces. I mean, there's thousands of UFO cases with the physical traces and stuff. So that just shows how the stigma completely wrecks the logical thinking of otherwise really brilliant people. That's
the problem with commentating from the sidelines, though, isn't it? Because there is a lot of intelligent people, but if they don't take the time to research, as you say, all of these other cases that just rule out that.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at the data that you're aware of, considering that you don't research it, then the data you're aware of is how far away is it to the nearest, and so you do the maths and, that would take a really long time. And that's not researching. That's just, based on what you learned at secondary school or university, the basics.
Yeah, but they know the basics. I mean, Newton's physics, that was from the 1700s, right? We all know that Einstein's physics is the next step. They should know that. Yeah.
But again, it's trying to get people engaged, trying to get science and the academic world really engaged in the subject. Because for every one Neil deGrasse Tyson or Eric Weinstein, we might have 30 Gary Nolans and, getting involved in the subject to go, well, I'm going to do some peer-reviewed science, and actually I found something,
But they're not allowed in media. I mean, the American media could go to Gary Nolan and let him talk freely on the biggest platforms, but do they do that? No, they don't.
No. Well, I mean, Joe Rogan's pretty big, isn't he?
But he's not he's independent. He has his own platform.
But I would see, here's the thing, I have this conversation quite frequently. Like, we were talking earlier on about the UK and like BBC and Sky News, who are the bigger broadcasters over here. And if you look at their online presence, for quite a long time, maybe not so much recently because I've spent a little bit less time on Instagram, but certainly last year and the year before, I was getting higher hits, higher ratings, so to speak, on my online social media than Sky News was. And Sky News was using Instagram, and they were getting, 15,000 views per video they were putting out. And I was getting 30, 40, 50, 100,000, 200,000 views for one video. Yeah. And it's something in my head just kind of went, I've got more views than Sky News. I know it's different because the television views is also counted towards, but just looking at the social media, and I'm not saying this sort of from a flex kind of ego way, it's more we have the power as us collectively from our independent social media to really bypass the mainstream media, because if I'm getting 10 million views on Instagram per month, that's potentially 10 million people that I'm able to reach, and I'm only a small fish in the pond. You've got plenty of other people putting content out like yourself and everybody else on all of the different platforms that are reaching these people and planting the seeds. And I kind of feel like it would be nice to have the BBC and it would be nice to have Sky News involved, but I also feel like we don't really need them. We're bypassing them.
I would say it's the same in England as in Sweden, that the big public discourse is not going to change from an Instagram account. Those sensitive people with influence on media platforms, they are going to take the BBC really serious, and they're not going to take a Instagram account about UFOs serious, and that's because they're afraid of the topic and the stigma and the stuff. So I would say, we should absolutely try to bypass them in every way and show how bad journalism they're doing. They're completely steered. They can't make any. I haven't seen any exception. What's the biggest UFO organization in England?
It would probably be BUFON, which is the British version of MUFON, I guess. But even so, they're pretty small in terms of collecting data. But they're probably the biggest official.
So why doesn't the media? Are they allowed to talk in big media on BBC News and stuff? Why don't they go to like somebody like you or somebody like the head of the organization for a big UFO, a serious UFO organization or something? They never do that, right? No. They invite Mick West, I bet. I bet Mick West has been, I don't know, but have Mick West been in BBC?
I think he probably has over the years. He's done BBC and ITV and
that's the cover up right there.
I mean, it's a frustration, but I don't know if it can last. I think we'll have to wait and see what happens, I suppose. But it's always felt like we're 2 or 3 or 4 years behind America in the UK, and we seem to follow their trends, but just by a few years behind.
It's quite obvious that the Americans has always gone around collecting UFOs all over the place. And because they're the biggest economy and the only superpower really, so they've taken upon themselves to keep the lid on, obviously for many different reasons, I guess, mostly bad, but with Trump in power, I mean, he knows obviously. So a likely scenario, I think, would be that he wants to take it as far as he possibly can. Why would he want to let anybody else after him get the credit for disclosing? So that's a problem for the cover-up, Mr. Donald Trump.
I think so too. Yeah, I think he's a dangerous person for them. He's a bit of a maverick, isn't he? He just does whatever he wants to do, and that's probably quite concerning for the intelligence people that are very structured in what they do. And he can just go, put a tweet out, we're going to do this.
It just happens that he has had 3 assassination attempts. No way all of them are not some kind of... There's some will behind that, I think. In some other, maybe in one case, not all of them. that's conspiracy. But I mean, they did what they did with JFK. So yeah, that's another question. There was super serious hearings about the JFK case last 1 year ago. With a doctor and a former Secret Service agent testifying that the official version of what happened is not correct at all.
Yeah, not correct.
But there was nothing, absolutely nothing in Swedish media. Did you see anything in? No, not a word.
We saw.
Okay.
Yeah, it was covered in the media over here. None of the UFO-related stuff, because I know there was a few UFO-related documents. I think we had those originally, though, didn't we? But they were just officially released. I think they'd been in the public space for quite a while, the UFO related stuff. But there was some. It was covered a little bit. What wasn't covered was the sort of conclusions that came from it. That look, there was more than one shooter, which that was kind of the narrative that they formed in the States in the news. That the Congress people are saying, look, evidence is pointing to the official story being incorrect and there being more than one shooter. That wasn't in the UK. All that we got in the UK was, the new files have been released, lots of new files, and it's questioning the original finding.
Okay.
But didn't really give us much more than that, really.
Okay, that's almost nothing then.
Yeah.
Because, so not a word about the doctor testifying that Kennedy was shot from the front?
No, they didn't go that far. It was just covering the fact that they'd been released and that there's some new evidence that's interesting, but that was as far as they went.
The UFO cover-up of media is, I got used to that, but I really got shocked when nothing in Swedish media talked about the hearings about the JFK. Because, from the right to the left, everybody I think that everybody, whatever political line you affiliate yourself with, agrees that JFK was a force of good. And he was murdered. And if there's something wrong with the official explanation, everybody should be wanting to hear the truth about it. And you have a serious doctor who was there who saw that Kennedy was shot from the front in the neck. The entry wound was from the front, under oath in Congress, and not a word. I think I was the only reporter on my little UFO platform talking about that. And that's not the only thing I've been alone with. You know that UAP hearing in the EU Parliament? Yeah. In March 2024. My podcast was the only one talking about it, I think. And maybe another fellow UFO podcaster. Other than that, nothing.
Yeah, it didn't get much at all. And it was, I covered it on UAP Files, and I had Francisco Guerra, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He was on the UAP Files podcast. At the time he was talking about it. But he was probably the only person, like European-wise, politician that was talking about the subject at all. So I was like, I need to get him and get him on the podcast.
Exactly.
But he's very supportive of it. But no, I didn't really see anyone else really cover it.
No. And from a Swedish media standpoint, there was a Swedish astronomer there. I know her, right? So she was there. So it's about UFOs. There's a Swedish astronomer. It's the EU Parliament. And nothing, not one article, and not a word from the big Swedish UFO organization either. They
so strange.
No, it's not strange. The head of the Swedish, I was a member for 5 years, and I was active for 3 or 4 years, so I know all the guys on the board. And the head of the Swedish UFO organization is the only public expert allowed in public media. Never on the biggest platforms, because the UFO topic is never allowed there, but it's allowed on like afternoon TV, like stuff like that, right? And he's been a ufologist since 1970, and he doesn't have an hypothesis about UFOs. And verbatim, he said that he thinks that Kirkpatrick gets too much shit, and he's really done a good job. So it's not a mystery.
Yeah,
what's going on?
But you would think that all of the podcasters and the content creators and the researchers, anybody that has a platform would have jumped on it, because it was just such a rare thing to see in Europe, Where
the EU thing,
yeah, you'd think that everyone, because when I saw it, I was like, this is fantastic. You know, this fits into what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring in the European side, the United Kingdom, cover those voices because it's very American-centric. So for me, it was a big deal. I made a video about it. I interviewed Francisco, but yeah, nobody else really had any interest in it. And that's frustrating because if nothing else, it's content for them, you know, and they're looking for new stories and they're independent. So why can't they? If we all did it collectively,
and
then it would be a big story.
Yeah, and the media can't say that they don't cover what's going on in the European Parliament. They always have reporters there.
Yeah.
Like Swedish media always have reporters and knows what's going on in the EU Parliament.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Crazy. It's just ridiculous.
That's the cover-up right there. But I can inform you that my friend, a professor at Lund University, Anders Varell, we have two the most prestigious and oldest universities. He's a professor at one of them, and he was in a meeting with the EU Commission about UFOs, and he informed them about the stigma, and at least one of the parliament staffers got some kind of ontological shock there. So the EU Commission is informed this took place, what was it, like a half a year ago? In November, I think it was, yeah. Right. So not a lot of people know about that, but the EU Commission was informed about the seriousness about UFOs and the stigma being false. Did you notice in Age of Disclosure and Elizondo on Rogan and Hal Puthoff and David Grush, they don't use the word PSYOP. They call it disinformation campaign. The stigma is created. I mean, Elizondo and Age of Disclosure confirmed that the stigma is created by the U.S. government, CIA. Yeah. Yeah, but they don't use the word PSYOP. Because that is what it is. Yeah. There's a lot of talk about. I hear people in ufology, in the UFO community, they throw around the term PSYOP about everything, but they don't see the actual ones. That's a big thing. The UFO stigma is a PSYOP. Yeah. They can't use that word. Obviously, it's very touchy to call a PSYOP because that's a psychological operation on its own citizens.
Yeah, which is illegal, isn't it?
It's very illegal. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that would make sense, wouldn't it? And I suppose if you're trying to not so much bring the CIA on board, but if you're trying to get people to become friendly from within, you know, whistleblowers and perhaps new leadership to try and change things, you probably want to approach it from a position where you're not trying to be too harsh, but you kind of need them to change what they're saying, change their openness and transparency policies. You know, there's the talk about having like an amnesty. So it's that language where it's kind of like, look, we know that you're doing some bad things and that you have done bad things, but we, for the greater good of humanity, we want some answers. So we're kind of willing to accept some of the bad things that you've done, as long as you start doing it the right way now, you know, doing things correctly now. And maybe that's why the language is kind of generous language.
I think it's very sensitive, the word PSYOP, but they obviously know it's not disinformation. I mean, disinformation that's a completely different thing. That's false information and information that can be true also, but it like deflects the interest to something else. That's disinformation. A PSYOP is that's like creating a cult behavior. I mean, you've seen this thousands of times that regular people, they function very well on other topics. They can use rationale and like be pertinent and stuff, but when it comes to UFOs, they completely break down. They say really stupid stuff, and that's exactly the thing of a cult, right? They can function really well on all topics, but on some certain areas they are immune to evidence. And that's what is going on. I think the UFO community talks way too little about the UFO stigma being a PSYOP, because that's really important to understand what is going on. The cover-up is mostly psychological.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Susan Goff. I mean, she's the,
Yeah.
you know, it's in her LinkedIn, you know, it says it right there.
Yeah.
And who is it that's in charge of the public releases of information via the Public Affairs Office at the Department of War?
Yeah.
Susan Goff.
Did you see her sitting right behind both Sean Kirkpatrick and the new guy?
Yeah, but,
Right
but it's no
staring at
secret.
them.
It's no secret that she's the she's the point of contact. I mean, I've spoken to her. I've sent many emails and asked questions. And in the very early days, I was asking questions about Lulizondo. I was asking questions about ATIP.
Did you get answers?
No. Well, I got an answer about Lulizondo, which was the standard answer that she gives to everybody, which is he had no assigned role from the DNI or whatever for ATIP, and it was kind of really vaguely worded. And the other question I asked her was around non-human versus extraterrestrial. So they're very much using the term extraterrestrial, that we've got no evidence of extraterrestrial visitation or whatever. And my question was, okay, but what about non-human intelligence? Not, you know, and she would reply, we consider off-world to incorporate all that stuff. I can't remember the exact word, and I'll have to look it up. It was a couple of years ago. I've posted it on X a few times, but it was sort of still pretty vague, but essentially saying nothing exists, nothing to see here. You know, move along.
Yeah. It's all about the psychological part. I'm sure they have gathered all the physical material as much as they can. Done an incredible job at picking everything up, I guess.
Well, that's their job, isn't it? Their job is to collect as much information as possible. Yeah. Information is currency, and to give you as little as possible. Yeah. We keep all the information and we give you nothing. Yeah, that's, I mean, you know,
Roswell. I mean, it's so blatant. It's right there. If you read the books by Carey and Schmidt, they've turned every stone. We know what happened. I mean, it's so obvious that they just did what they did. Everybody who was there at the time knew what was happening, but they told the media it was a balloon, turn around, nothing to see here, and the media just did what they said. Yeah, so they can get away with lots of stuff.
I can imagine. There's lots of things that they want to get away with, that the potential of this, if this came out, then that stuff would also come out, and it'd just be opening a massive can of worms for them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Huge can of worms. All the bad stuff that they did. It's perhaps recover crafts to...
MK Ultra and JFK.
Yeah, MK Ultra, absolutely. Tons of it. And that's probably crossover and into using people for the psionic abilities or contact abilities, potentially against their will. You know, people that didn't really want to help them but had to. So many dark, seedy things that they're alleged to have to have been involved in over the years. That if even half of it's true, that's pretty bad. The
most darkest thing for me that I wasn't prepared for was that the obvious that the cover-up of the JFK assassination is put in the same boat. The Swedish media can't report on that either. That really disappoints me. And another thing that the UFO community doesn't talk about enough is that, and wasn't mentioned a single word in Sweden, was the 2022 Brazilian parliament. They had UFO and ET disclosure for a whole day in their parliament on Midsummer's Day or Eve.
Was that, did you say Brazilian or Mexican?
Brazilian. Brazil
really?
Parliament. Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
I'm not surprised you haven't heard of it. It was June, I forget the date, but it was Midsummer's Eve, so it was probably the 19th or 20th of June 2022. You could look up an article. One of the few things you will find, nothing in, I promise you, you will not find anything about it in the big media, like the big British media. I promise you, without knowing, I bet everything I have that you will not find a good article on that. It was in the Brazilian parliament for a whole day, confirming UFOs and extraterrestrials in the history of Brazil. Except the Virginia case wasn't mentioned, but everything else, like the night of the UFOs and stuff, everything points to. My podcast was the only one talking about it. Not a word by any other ufologist, because I was quite alone, like an independent then. Now I have friends who are the same side, but like the big UFO organization, Same guy again. Not a word about it. Not one word. Yeah, and not one word in media either.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
You can look it up on the debrief.
Oh, yeah.
If you go to the debrief and search for Brazilian Parliament 2022, you'll find an article and you'll find a link you can watch. It's a link to YouTube, so you can see the whole thing. But it's in Brazil, but I think you can get it automatically translated on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Definitely. Yeah, definitely check that out. Share it. Yeah, people should know about that, really, shouldn't they? Surprising that they don't. It really is.
No, the UFO community is... they miss so much. I mean, that happened. It came and went away. It's like it never happened. We talked about it for like a day, but then it was like it didn't happen.
I think another problem with cases where, not cases, but things like Parliament where they don't speak English, I think a lot of the American and the British podcasters will just avoid it, because I think if your interest is, you've got an interest in this, but also you've got that balance of content has to have views makes money, there's a financial connection to people, content creators and podcasters and stuff. And if your pure focus, and that's the case for some of them, unfortunately, if your pure focus is money and making as much money as possible and having as many views as possible, then are you going to choose a video for today that is English speaking, is going to get more engagement, or are you going to choose a video that's not got English speaking people and isn't going to get anywhere near as much engagement?
Sure, but it's aliens in the Parliament.
I know, but that's the problem. There are people who have very little interest in researching and putting the work in, and they wouldn't be prepared to. Like, I had, and to give you an example, I interviewed a guy called Yausin Yauman, who's the night watchman that filmed the Camburgus UFO. Yeah. So, real famous case from Turkey, 2007 to 2009. He'd never given an interview to a British or American or English-speaking podcaster ever. I think he'd given like a medium-length interview to someone roughly early 2000s, maybe late 2010, something like that. And nothing since then. And it was such an extraordinary case because it's like a real, compelling thing. I know people have got different opinions on it, but it was, a really clear video. And I found him and I asked if he'd give me an interview. He doesn't speak English, so we had an interpreter and we took a long-form interview. There were 4 of us, and, with me and my co-host at the time, Tom, and the translator and Yausin, the witness. And I remember thinking, it was quite a big video. Lots of people watched it and it was shared around and it renewed this interest for a lot of people. Then they made debunking videos and rebunking videos and it reignited it. And I remember thinking at the time, why hasn't anybody else tried to find him? Why it wasn't that difficult. I know that Chris Leto went out to Turkey to try and find him and wasn't successful. But apart from Chris Leto, nobody else had tried as far as I know. And I found him on Facebook. Okay, he wasn't using his name, but I just looked for names similar, and I looked at his picture. I had his picture on one screen, and I'm looking at every single photo profile on Facebook. And it took me a few hours, but I found him. I'm only one person. I found him and interviewed him. But my suspicion was that they just thought, well, he's not English, is he? Doesn't speak English, so I'm not going to get much engagement.
Yeah, but lots of people don't really... I mean... It's a good video, but what it is not super clear. I mean, if you want to see a UFO, you can. I mean, it's not obvious that it's a UFO. It's standing still. It doesn't really look like any other UFO video. Doesn't?
No, it's very unique. But that's kind of why I wanted to kind of get him, just document him talking, long form, and just explain the whole thing to us and provide that context. And that's what I mean by there's a lot of cases out there where people won't do that. If there's something that would be useful for us to know, even if it's something that we could discount because of whatever and move on to the more interesting things or the more useful stuff, fine, but you've got to put the work in and put the effort in. And it kind of comes back to what you were saying. I think potentially the language barrier puts some people off who aren't so much researchers as they are content creators. view
exactly.
generators.
Now I applaud you with that attitude, because as a police officer, that's the right attitude, because if that video gets supporting evidence in the future,
Exactly.
yeah, then you have already documented the good stuff, right? So you never know, like a case like that, maybe something new information turns up and the guy is dead, so you can't reach him. So that's applaud you. And I really like that you reached out to other parts of the world, right? You had a guy from, where was it? From Asia somewhere.
Yeah, well, I've had two guys now from Bali, Indonesia. One was the former presidential advisor, and another one's an English guy that's moved out, married a lady from Indonesia, and he's living out in Bali now. But we've had loads. We've had a chap from Project Hestelin, who was the
I was there a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, really impressive operation that not many people know about, do they? Again, that's another one of those things where people will kind of, they've been going for years, years and years and years, but yet not many people know about it.
It's a hotspot. It's this place in Sweden on the island of Gotland in the Baltic Sea, where there's a small, it's a small village, really small, but it's a big area where people have seen call it an orb phenomena, a light phenomena that comes in the form of a sphere of light. It's been talked about since the 1800s somewhere, I think. I actually was there also last summer. But apart from that, because that's not necessarily UFO connected as clearly as Hesdalen, but Hesdalen is the hotspot, UFO hotspot in the Nordic countries. That's very clear. The light phenomena is one thing, but there's loads of typical UFO sightings and strange boxes of lights, and I got the impression, talking to people and researching before we went there, that most people have seen something personally who live there. There are not many people who live there, but it's definitely worth.
Yeah, that's what Fred had said when I interviewed him. He was saying that just all the locals had like a story, like an incredible story as well. Yeah.
I've talked to Fred, but I haven't really heard a good hypothesis why there would be so much UFO activity if it's a natural phenomenon, the light phenomenon, because that seems like some kind of plasma or something to me. I don't know. Nobody knows, I guess. But there are also UFOs. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know if he's started to form any conclusions yet. I think he's just, from what he was saying to me anyway at the time, it was just collect as much data as possible and try and get more people involved to help with that process. And more sort of triangulation. I remember him saying at the time they wanted to do more triangulation with sensors. Yeah. But, it just goes to show there's so much all over the world. I've had a chat from China. We've had people from talking about Russian cases. I mean, it's everywhere. They are. And what about crop circles, before I forget? It's that time of the year, right? Last year there was a crop circle, at least one good in south of England, right?
Yeah, I think there's been one that I'm aware of this year. Do you know Karen Alexander?
Karen Alexander? No.
She, along with her husband, have... they have a website where they take photos but also have art related to crop circles. And she will go out with her husband or separately, and they will take photographs of all of the new cases, and sometimes they go up in a helicopter to get like a bird's eye view. So they're just one of the world's leads in crop circle collection, data collection.
I think I've seen her in a documentary. A friend of mine who's a documentary filmmaker who's done some UFO documentaries, really good ones. Yeah. He's done one on crop circles. It's called the Shilbolton Incident.
Right.
You should take a look.
Yeah. Right.
She might be in it, actually.
Temporary Temples. Just remember to say Temporary Temples is her Instagram account and website.
Yeah, so one last thing before I forget. Do you want me to prove to you that the UFO community hasn't really... They have missed so many central things. And the number one thing that they've missed is the term UFO. Because if you think about it, I mean, in Swedish and in English, nowadays it's a word. It started as an acronym from the US Air Force, introduced it. But we have used it as a word for flying saucers and Tic Tacs and that kind of stuff. So that is since long our word for those types of vehicles, let's call it. But any professional in my old work and in science would agree that you can't have a central word like that meaning two different things. People use it as both the word for flying saucers and Foo Fighters and for anything unidentified. And this is gaslighting at its finest, because if you think about it, it's as stupid as using the word airplane for both, MiG airplanes and Airbus and Concords, to use it for both airplanes and for everything unidentified. Yeah. Then it becomes unclear, are there airplanes? Are there airplanes really real? I mean, I saw a UFO, but it turned out to be a bird. I mean, the whole topic is gaslighted with a central word like that being used by even Alessandro. I don't think he's thought about this. You can't have a word meaning both unidentified and flying saucers. That's gaslighting, because then it's unclear if the one thing really exists.
That's interesting. Do you think, in terms of the terminology or the language, it should be... So what do you think about the sort of move to UAP? Because at least that says it's unidentified, but it's anomalous phenomenon.
I mean, I'm convinced that it's a part of the PSYOP. They've changed the word from flying saucers, and then after 1952, after Washington Flap, Edward Ruppelt is the one who changed it, introduces UFO, the term UFO. So before that, it was flying saucers and Foo Fighters and stuff, right? There wasn't a collective word. But the US Air Force, for fuck's sake, the US Air Force introduces the term, and they make us use and think about the word unidentified. Every time we talk about flying saucers, we say to each other, unidentified, unidentified. That is gaslighting. You can't convince me. It's a coincidence that they didn't think deeply about this gaslighting. So that I'm sure about. You can't convince me otherwise without really good proof. But UAP, as I heard it quite recently, it was Jay Stratton who introduced it.
Yeah, I think I heard that as well.
Yeah,
I think I heard that. Having said that, UAP had been used in the Condon report.
Yeah.
Which was, 2009, I think?
The term aerial phenomena is really old.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be fair, though, that's probably near to around the time of ORSAP, I guess, because ORSAP was, around that kind of time. So it's hard to say who, because no doubt they would have been in communication and working together. They're part of the Five Eyes, aren't they, UK and the States? So it's hard to say. But, yeah, it's certainly been around for a while.
Yeah. But it's like an new old term.
Yeah.
But I don't believe we can't be this naive and just think that it's about the UFO have a stigma, a baggage, and that they want to use UAP because to get rid of the old stigma.
Because that is
that's a perfect excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't say why they changed it. I would presume, until proven otherwise, that it's the same thing. Because in many people's eyes, as you know, the general public, that they think of UFOs, they think of extraterrestrials. If UFOs are real, then the aliens are here. If you then change it to UAP, then everybody's going to start over again. Okay, UAP, what does that stand for? Unidentified. So then we start over again, telling each other. So that's what I think. That's the most logical explanation, because UFO started as an acronym, then became a word for flying saucers, and they don't want that. So then they start over again with UAP, so we have to think about, it's unidentified. And then they take the best excuse possible and blame it on stigma to get us to accept that, it's a good term. That's what I think. If you heard Jake Barber at Jesse Michaels, he said very clearly that legitimacy is the best cover, and that is something we use all the time. So legitimacy is the best cover. So I've studied the disinformation agents for 5 years now. I know their tricks, and they always use the best excuse possible to talk about something else or to point at something problematic or everything. If they have an agenda and they can see a legitimate reason to do something or say something, they use that, of course, because that covers up the real reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
That's how they do it.
Awesome.
All right.
Man.
Jimmy, thank you so much for a long talk.
It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and looking forward to talk some more Tool sometime maybe.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah. Did you catch the festival last summer?
Yes.
Back to the beginning? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was a little disappointed at I know it's like an age thing probably in your vocal cords, but I'm very obsessed with Maynard, as I said earlier on, like with his vocals. But he tends to play it safe, doesn't he? I know you can really push your range, but you can also play it safe just to be, careful with your vocal cords. And he felt like he kind of played it safe a bit. And sometimes I just want him to belt it out because
but he
it's
can't
the old
do
Tool
that
that I
anymore.
love. No, I know.
Yeah.
It's an age thing, isn't it? And it's they don't. Your vocal cords aren't.
You have to watch old videos if you want him screaming.
Yeah, I just missed that.
Yeah.
I do miss that. But no, they were great. They were really good.
That was the best performance he's done for decades, as I've heard him, I think.
Yeah, it was good. No, it was good. Yeah, they were all on form.
Definitely.
It was good to see them. It was a good event, actually. It was a really good event to see some of the old school.
Gohira was awesome also, I think.
Yeah.
I have just recently discovered them, just a couple of 5 years ago or something, but they have a lot of lyrics about space and aliens and stuff.
Interesting.
It's the album with the black and white, and it's a whale on the front.
I'll have a look at
you should check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll keep it up, Jimmy. Good work.
Thanks very much. Take care of yourself. Speak soon.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers.